boys and girls. How are you? We're back together again for another time of reading. I have two books for you today, but we're on the same teak. Now, the teak that we're covering, if you remember, is teak 3.9e. It's Recognize Characteristics and Structures of Argumentative Text. That means the author is trying to convince you of the character and how he thinks, feels, or believes. Now, if you recall, a persuasive text or an argumentative text has these components to them. So, an argumentative text is persuasive. It shows your point of view and is more important than any other. It tries to convince you by using facts and reasons. Our argumentative text or persuasive text is called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, isn't that similar to the Three Little Pigs story? Yes and no. I have one book here, The Three Little Pigs, and it was my son's book. And it's a short one, and it's a pop-up story. This one I own. Also, the persuasive text that we're going to read, I also own. I ordered it from eBay. I couldn't go to the library, and neither can any of you, because the library is closed right at this time. Yeah, because of the virus that's going around, the libraries are now closed. So, therefore, I'm going to read you a story, particularly if you don't have any books at home. Not to mention it is the teak that we're supposed to cover in school. So we'll start reading this book first. And I'm going to move it over to the table so that this way you can probably see it a little better rather than me holding it up. So I'm going to move it over this way. The Three Little Pigs. This is Greeter Mr. Wolf, who fancies for his lunch a juicy pig with applesauce and vegetables to munch. It's a pop-up book. Now here's a very foolish pig who's built his house with straw. The wolf thinks there's an easy catch. I'll just blow down the door. And you can pull and boom, it gets blown down. So the wolf huffs and puffs. Particularly in other stories, they say that the wolf huffs and puffs and blows the house down. That was tasty, said the wolf, but sadly not enough. He finds another pig who's built a house of wood and stuff. So this house is built and made out of sticks. I'll blow your house down too, he cries and huffs and puffs until the house falls down. The pig is caught and a wolf can have his fill. It isn't long before the wolf is hungry once again. To his dismay, pig number 3 has more than half a brain. Rejecting straw and wood and sticks, he's built himself a house of bricks. The wolf, he huffs and puffs and stamps his foot and cries, enough. And we see him blowing it there. But I need another plan, I know. He's got a chimney, down I'll go. I'll get this pig. I'll be the winner. He really wishes he was thinner. You know what happens next? You do. As he goes down the chimney, the wolf lands splash in piggy stew. And that's the end. In other traditional stories, the wolf runs away. Now we're going to read the persuasive text. This is called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. And for this story, the wolf is trying to persuade the reader that he's innocent of any crime whatsoever. Why, in this story, he really believes he was set up or framed. So in this story, the perspective of the story is told from the wolf and his point of view. So we're going to move over to the table again while I read this. The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Now everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. Now, you can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. So you can already tell the perspective is very different. This is the real story. Way back, and once upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig. And he wasn't too bright either. Why, he had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, "Little pig, are you in?" No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. And that's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed. And I snuffed. I bet you can figure out what happened next. And I sneezed a great sneeze. Look at that, everything went flying. Oh, and you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. Well, it seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, Wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed. I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was a second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. It's similar to the first story, where each pig had made a house of straw and then sticks. But in the traditional story, the wolf blew down the houses deliberately, but in this one he's saying he just sneezed and it wasn't on purpose. Now, you know, food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full. But my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar from my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, wolf. Don't bother me again. Why, talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar. And he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday cake instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. Card instead of a cake, sorry. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down this pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. Take a minute, predict what will happen next. It has a different ending. The rest, they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner. They figured a stick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar? Pretty cute, huh? And it is a persuasive story, because in this story, the wolf tries to convince the reader that he is actually innocent. And I want you now to look at this. This is your assignment. And your assignment is to write one way the wolf tries to convince the reader that he was framed. So think about the story we read and think about what persuasive reasons he gave for being framed. Thank you so much, boys and girls. I really enjoyed our time together. You can take a photo and text it to me or email it to me, send it to me. That would be fine. Or you can just leave me a message. I would appreciate that too. Bye-bye, boys and girls, and I'll see you next time.